Hey, what's going on, everybody? We are excited to be back. You know, Darren and I, we say this all the time, but genuinely, it's about as much fun as I have in a video each and every month. I love my Q&As. I love the whole show and tell of what everyone bought. But I like hanging out with my buddy Darren. So
Me too.
we do this where it's just the two of us, and then we do one with a guest. And we're always kind of, trying to change it up and not do the same sort of thing. And so we have a guest that we're excited to have on. And neither one of us have spent a ton of time talking to. Is that fair, Darren?
That's fair.
And so we're excited to kind of get to know him. And so we'll go ahead and bring him on. It is the one and the only Mr. Junk Wax Hero. How you doing?
Great. Thanks, guys, for having me on.
Hey, Mike.
It's, Darren, congrats on 1,000 subscribers, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Very cool. And I'm thrilled to be here. I'm a big fan.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. I'm sure anybody that's a subscriber of ours is already a subscriber of Mike's, but his channel is Junk Wax Hero. He's rapidly closing in on 10,000 subs.
That's awesome.
There aren't a lot of channels that spend any time talking about vintage cards or anything other than exclusively modern that have hit that 10,000 threshold. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I like to think that there are a lot of collector channels, and I'm one of the collector channels, right? I do a very, very minimal amount of selling, as little as possible, and I'm almost all about collecting and telling stories, and I love that, and I love you've flown up to 5,000 faster than I ever did.
I think you've grown faster than I have. When I started my channel, you were like a little past 1,000, and you're at like 9.
Really?
Yeah.
Just hit 3 years.
Yeah,
and
so
it took me a year to get to 1,000. So
yeah,
okay.
I first subscribed to you. You were a little over 1,000, and you've added 8,500 since then, and I've added about 5,500.
But you've done fewer videos, right?
No, I bet I've done more.
Okay.
I'm addicted to doing it. So, but let me ask you.
Yes. That's a great point, though. It is an addiction.
Yeah.
I would say that this has become my primary hobby within the hobby. I love collecting, but this feeds my collecting. It drives my collecting, and I love creating content, but also interacting with other YouTubers and commenters and viewers. And I would love to do a video every day. I can't.
Yeah. Now let me ask you though, like, there are a lot of people who watch YouTube videos, and there are significantly less that make them. So what made you decide, hey, this is fun watching, but I'm going to do this. Like, I'm ready to get the production rolling. Like, what got you to go, I'm going to get in on this? Because when you started, you didn't have a massive collection. You didn't have like thousands of cards. You hadn't been back in it for 10 years.
Nope.
You were newer back in.
9 months.
And you had a smaller collection, and you said, but I'm going to make videos. Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, so I've told this story several times. So for those of you who have already heard this before, I'm sorry. The story inevitably changes slightly. Little details, or I add little things. It's all the truth, but hopefully you enjoy it just as much. So I was a big runner, trail runner. I always said, runners run roads, athletes run trails. And I know you probably look at me, you saw me in person, you're like, this guy is not a runner. Well, I was. I've gained a lot of weight since then. But I was a big trail runner, and 2020 really, it took off. I went out and I was running and riding my bike every single day, basically. And I thought, I'm going to be one of the best trail runners in New England. My goal, once races opened up again, I was going to be a competitive trail racer.
Hmm.
And then on September 26th of 2020, I had a little pinky toe injury. Shouldn't have been anything serious, but it never went away. And I saw a bunch of specialists. I ended up having surgery on it, which the surgery made it worse. And turned out it was a nerve issue. It was misdiagnosed by multiple specialists, and it was a nerve issue in my foot that presented, or on the left side of my foot that presented itself near my pinky toe. Is pinky toe, is that a regional thing? Do you guys say that?
Yeah,
No, yeah,
Yeah.
I would call it that as well.
Okay. All right. And so, as part of that, the realization that I may never run again, which had become a big part of my life, I suffered from depression for the first time in my life. And I don't remember what drove me to, but I dug out my childhood collection from the closet. It's the darkest point of the pandemic. It was fall of 2020, and I hadn't looked at my childhood collection in 15 years. It was 2005 because I had done some collecting 03, 04, 05, minimal, and I dug out my collection and I went through it all, and it was all junk wax stuff plus a little bit of 03, 04, 05. So I collected from 86 through 94, and this wave of nostalgia hit me. None of my cards had any monetary value whatsoever. I looked them up thinking, oh man, I'm gonna make so much money. No value whatsoever. And I put it away, and then later on that night, I remembered one specific Juan Gonzalez card that I hadn't seen. And I'd spent hours going through it. And I was like, why? Where was that Juan Gonzalez card? Hot Rookies. It was a 90 Donruss or something. I don't remember. And it was red. So I dug out
the rated. That was the rated rookie one, wasn't it?
No.
It's a different one.
There was no Gonzalez rated rookie.
Okay.
So I 90 score maybe was what it was. And so the next morning I dug out my collection again, and I found a box in there that I hadn't gone through. So I must have assumed I had, and it had all of my childhood best cards, which are still not any value, but they were like my Griffeys, my Juan Gonzalez's, and those things. And I was like, man, I love this so much. I'm going to go to Target and buy some cards. And we'll stay away from Target in 2020, 2021. But as part of my running, I had just started the process of starting a YouTube channel where I was just going to talk about trail running and share videos of trail running and stuff like that. And it was something that I had really wanted to do. I had bought a GoPro and all the equipment to go with it, which I've since given to the neighbor kid. But I thought, well, I got 6-7 months into my collecting journey again, and I was like, yeah, I really wanted to start a YouTube channel. Maybe I'll just talk about cards. And I'll do this for like 3 or 4 months while I recover from my foot injury. And I just never recovered from the foot injury.
I've heard parts of that story. I heard the part about the injury and that affecting that thing that you were going down. And but there's another thing that you mentioned in there that kind of stirs something up, and I have questions about, which is you are really into collecting cards besides just baseball cards. Like I've seen you pick up tennis cards. You recently showed a cricket card. You really like track and field, and you've picked up some track and field cards. And then you also recently unveiled a list of, I think it's 100 cards, right?
The concept of the list, yeah. I haven't unveiled the list itself yet.
Okay, so tell us about the concept of the list and what you think a good list looks like and why.
Oh, I can tell you about my list, and the list looks good to me. Other people might not like mine, and that's okay. I should shout out Iconic Al here. He had the idea. I think he did 100, and he did one a week. And I legitimately am not stealing his idea. It didn't even occur to me until he commented on mine. And the second his comment popped up, I was like, oh man, he did this. But anyway, I was thinking about my collection, and I had a lot of like $10 to $20 cards, and I had started dabbling in the $100 to $200 cards, and I started getting more joy from those big cards. Like these are cards that I can look at and show people and have them go, oh wow, that's a really good card. And instead of, and I had already started moving out of Modern. I have almost zero interest in Modern cards at this point. But I started thinking about what kinds of cards make me jealous when I see them in somebody else's collection. And so I started thinking about mostly baseball, because I've always been a massive baseball fan, and there aren't a ton of basketball cards vintage. But then I started thinking, wouldn't a good list be more diverse? It would have a lot of different sports. And then I started thinking about, well, would it have women's cards, and would it have non-sports? And then that got too big, and I said, okay, I'm going to create a separate list for both those things and just have 100 cards of the men who have been the most famous and the greatest athletes of all time. And with a couple of exceptions for cards that have transcended the athletes that were on them, kind of, that are just fantastic cards that I think everybody should have and everybody should recognize. One card per athlete. So if you go, I Googled 100 greatest cards of all time, and the top list, like 50 links, is PWCC list. And it's like 25 Jordans and 15 Kobe's and 12 LeBrons. And I'm like, this is a terrible list. It's great for basketball collectors, don't get me wrong. And I said, okay, I'm going to do one per player. No player no card more recent than 10 years ago. And I had to come up with a cutoff. And I originally thought $1,000. I had never paid $1,000 for a card before. Have a hard time believing that I would, although I did at the National for the first time. But the $1,000 didn't get me where I wanted with some of the cards that I really, really wanted to include in the list. And so I ended up going to $5,000 cutoff just to get a handful of cards in that will take me forever to get to. So the max, you have to be able to find the card graded in, an authentic or a one for under $5,000.
And you're going to slowly unveil the list. Now, Darren did a list, but Darren, tell us about your list and kind of how it differed from Al's, because Al's were
Al did his top 100 countdown of the most iconic players. So he took into consideration not only their ability to play baseball well, but also how collectible they are and just kind of how big of an impact they had on society. My list was the top 50, in my opinion, of just the best baseball players, not taking into consideration anything about, their impact on the hobby or their impact on society as a whole. So mine was slightly different. And Mike, by the way, sorry about your toe. I kind of feel your pain. I had severe nerve issues last year. And if you watch, I did this showcase showdown with Mike Moynihan for Nolan Ryan. I literally had my surgery 2 days later. So that was like the peak of my pain. And I totally get what you're saying. It makes, like, you'll have nerve pain sucks. It makes no sense. Yeah. You'll be sitting there and you're like, huh. All of a sudden you're like, ow, ow, ow. Like, why is somebody crushing my foot? Oh, wait, no, it's gone now. Yeah. Yeah, I feel for you. That's terrible. I'm so sorry.
Thanks. Hopefully you're all better.
Yeah, no, I had my doctor, if he's watching, which I 100% chance he's not, crushed it. Best neurosurgeon ever.
Good.
Now, you just alluded to your national pickups, and I watch a fair amount of channels. I'd say there's 50 channels that I routinely watch. I may not see every video of every person on my list, but one of the things I noticed about you is in late winter and during the spring, you weren't picking up many cards. You weren't showing off your new pickups. And I was like, he's not buying anything. But what I didn't realize is you were just saving up for the National because you went on a little before the National and then through the National. You went on this tear of picking up some really, really big cards.
Some bangers, as the kids say.
Bangers. Yeah. So
it started, actually, I'm going to share this for a second because this is something, it probably started with this. I bought this at a card show last year from Don's Sports Card Center in Portland, Maine. It's an original Piedmont pack from 1910. And I shared this and the story of it. And I still get comments and I get offers from people to buy it from me for way more than what I paid for it. Like, some of the offers I get are shocking. And that I was like, man, it's really cool having that card. And so then I went and I was like, I've got to buy something big. And what do I want that big card to be? Hang on, it's right here. And I went with that.
Nice. That's a fantastic card.
Iconic card for sure. He's holding up the 49 leaf Ted Williams. It's got beautiful color on it. It's in an authentic holder because he's now showing the back. If you're listening, there's some paper loss on it.
Yeah, and this is the concept of my list. I'm calling it the collection of Envy 100. And then somebody said, I'm mixing up envy with jealousy. I don't know, whatever. You can tell me, Greg, teacher.
It's one of the 7 deadly sins, I think, right? I don't know. They both are, maybe? I'm not sure.
I don't know. Well, when I see these cards, I would get jealous or envious, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided that was the kind of collection I wanted to have, is the collection that I would be envious of if somebody were to show me.
That's how I feel when I look at Darren's cards, is I feel jealous and envious. But go ahead.
Yeah. And I can't afford high grade things, so I started buying things like, Pete Maravich, rookie, in a 3.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And then I bought from TJ's Online, the Ernie Banks rookie.
Nice.
I like that one.
And
in fact, I think you texted me right after you bought that, and you said, "Greg, I hate to break the news to you, but I bought a Banks."
Yeah,
like, that's all right. I'll get mine. I was just holding out a little bit. So you got
this from the Grail collection, Satchel Paige, 1953. Cannot. Yeah, it's great. It's a.
And that
2.
one's in a PSA 2, but it's really good eye appeal, really well centered.
Yeah,
and you bought that. You told the whole story about going back and forth with Mike Moynihan in your negotiations for that one.
Yep. And that is really what kicked it off. And then I saved all year and went to the National with what I thought was a good chunk of money, chump change for many people. And I bought a lot of low grade, and in this case, kind of mid grade, Dr. J rookie, 1972 tops, in a SGC 4.5. And this is something too, is, I looked at, I think, my list of 100 cards with a minimum price. I comped all of them. Minimum price, total $90,000. So an average of $900 per card. But if you buy them in SGC, because I did all PSA, because it's much easier to comp cards on PSA's website, if you buy them in SGC, you're going to get a bit of a discount. And so I started buying SGC. Here's a Jim Brown rookie in a 2.5.
And now all of these cards that he's showing right now were pickups fairly recently. And Jim Brown was a national pickup, right?
Yep. So was the Dr. J.
They all have fantastic eye appeal. They all look great.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what's important to me. This is the one that doesn't, though. It's the Gretzky rookie, but the price was right, and I had to have a Gretzky rookie in my collection.
Yeah, it's iconic. That's an envious card for sure.
That looks like a 3.
My lighting isn't great. Sorry, my camera's not great either.
That's all right.
Yeah, it's a PSA 3. Yep. It's rough. The edges are, and the corners especially, are rough, but it's okay. And
now there's a whole, and not to steer you off, because I think you have a couple more cards to show. I know you have a couple more cards to show, but as you're showing them, maybe talk about why are you more into the low grade cards? Obviously price point, but But why are you okay buying authentics and 1s and 2s and 3s while other people are like, no, I'd rather have fewer cards and higher grades? Like, what's your philosophy on that when you're picking up cards for your own collection? And then I don't want you to stop showing the stuff that you got, because I know you've got a big one coming up here.
The exact opposite of what you just said. I don't want a small collection. I want a large collection with all the big cards. And to get there, based on that price, I don't have $90,000. I don't have $5,000 sitting around to spend on cards, which is what's going to make the end of my collection the list of 100 really difficult. Is I want a large collection that I can afford and that I can look through and show people and have them say, "Oh, I can't believe you have that card."
Now, when you go through that process of, I can't believe you have that card. See, like for me, I ask my kids. That's kind of the barometer I use. I go, hey guys, have you ever heard of Ty Cobb? Have you ever heard of Jackie Robinson? Oh yeah, I know Jackie Robinson. Okay, Jackie Robinson is a card. I was talking to a couple of friends on Wednesday morning, and I said, yeah, I was thinking about buying this. Oh yeah, here's a Jackie.
54
This is
tops.
the 54 tops Jackie. I was talking about Nap Lajoie, and they're like, who's Nap Lajoie? I'm like, Nap Lajoie? He was like the guy that was battling Ty Cobb every year for the batting average title. And they're like, never heard of him. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's just not a household name.
Yep.
like Shoeless Joe Jackson. And his card, like the card values are so indicative of how commonly known names are. Everyone's heard of Mickey Mantle, but a lot of people, for whatever reason, don't know Stan Musial, even though Stan Musial's numbers are insane.
And that's the concept behind my list.
So it's more about the names.
And Musial does end up on my list. Just a little spoiler.
So I love that concept, by the way, Mike. Like that's when I think of my collection, that's kind of the way I think about it as well. So I think that's a super cool approach that you're taking.
Thank you. And Mantle is on it, obviously, right? Mm-hmm. You can't have a list of 100 without Mantle. But I had to pick which card. And did I want the 51 Bowman? Obviously, I'm not going to get the 52 tops because the lowest you're going to pay for that is $25,000.
Right.
But what card did I choose? Well, you'll have to tune in about 2 years when I get through my list. Because he's very high on the list. I don't remember where, but...
Oh, so you rank them from the 100th card of Envy to the first card of Envy.
That's right. Yep.
Okay. And when is that going to start?
When is this video posting?
Well, today is technically Thursday, probably Saturday, the 10th.
It's posting today, Saturday.
Okay. Oh, so if you haven't
I've just committed to it. Yeah.
You probably have already watched Mike's video before you watched mine. But if you haven't watched it yet, go on over there and see the 100th card of Envy, the first card on the list.
Nice.
Yeah, it's not based on the athlete. I'll give you that. Number 100 is based on how iconic the card is, especially to vintage collectors.
And I know you have at least one more big card to show us from the National.
The 41 play ball, Ted Williams. This was the one I said at the beginning of this year when I got the 49 Leaf. My goal is to get this, and I'm doing the full Ted run and PSA slabs. And so I wanted to get this. I don't like his rookie. I don't like his 39. I know that's an unpopular opinion it's a weird pose. It's just awkward and
it's the camera angle's weird, right? He's done with his swing and they take a picture of him from behind.
He's kind of twisted, but
neck
I think of
weird.
him. To me, it shows his length, how he's thin and lanky, and he uses his whole body and his classic follow through. I actually really like it. The one I don't like is the 40 play ball.
Yeah. There's really nothing good about the 40 play ball.
Well, the 41 is the same card, only it's got color.
Right.
Exactly. That's why I wanted it. That's my, and I'll get the other two eventually. But they're not priorities for me.
Now, there's a couple other things about your channel and things that you're doing that I want to touch on, but another thing that I'm curious about is when I think of you, and again, we don't know each other well. We've talked a couple of times. We met for the first time at the National. We text some. This is as in depth of a conversation as we've had. But you kind of seem like, and this is not a bad thing. I've had this same term used toward me before, but you seem kind of like a lone wolf, like a kind of a independent kind of dude. Like at a card show, I wouldn't expect to see you traveling in a pack. I would expect for you to kind of be doing your own thing solo, and then like maybe afterwards meet guys for dinner in a group, and then like you're I don't see you as like the guy who's gonna rally the troops to get an Airbnb to have 10 people pack into a house. You're kind of always going to have your own room, and I might be reading you wrong, tell me if I am, but at the same time you do tons of collaborations. I've seen you on tons and tons and tons of channels. Um, and so take me through that. Am I reading you? Is that a bad read? And if it is or it isn't, how does that fit with all the collaboration, which it seems like you enjoy? You're always meeting new guys and doing ongoing things. So what's the story there?
This is the most impressive read of me, I think, ever. I've had friends for decades that I have to explain myself to. Like my friend Oliver, who's maybe my best friend. I don't know. I'm 45. Do we call each other best friends?
Besties. Oh yeah.
Yeah, we meet up at the card shows together, but I do not want to walk around with him. And I don't want to. Last year at the National, a couple of people were like, "Why did you leave us at the National? I thought we were walking around together." And I'm like, "We were? Why would I want to walk around with people? I want to go at my own pace." I get stressed if people think, or if I'm needing to walk at somebody else's pace, either they're too fast or too slow, or I'm too fast or too slow. I am very comfortable by myself. Ever since I was a kid, you could probably say probably because he didn't have any friends. No, I don't know. I am very comfortable with my own company, and you're right. It's my nightmare being invited to a Airbnb with 10 other guys. That's
Yeah.
I need a room to myself.
Mm-hmm.
It would be a blast to be invited to come over for dinner and hang out, but I would leave. I'm an early to bed kind of guy,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a very, very routine based person.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tell my friends, I've been friends with these people for decades. I don't want to go camping with you. I will go out to lunch with you. I'm very comfortable. I'm very comfortable talking to people. And
Yeah.
so, I don't know. Yeah. I like
It's
lunch. I like
and
these.
maybe the reason I notice it, and Darren, I know that I'm probably stealing most of the question time. I apologize. You just tell me to shut up and
I've
ask
got time.
whatever. But
Good.
I'm the same way. In college, everybody lived in a frat house. I lived in a studio apartment alone. Um, my wife's family would always go on a houseboat every summer where they were in a houseboat, the same houseboat
Oof.
for a week. And she's like, I can't wait to take you houseboat. And I go, I'm not going. Like, I'm not going to do that. So I get it. But the part where where I struggle with it, and this went through my mind a lot at the National, because when you and I ran into each other, you were on your own, which didn't surprise me. But I was, like I love Darren. Like I love Darren. I consider Darren a really good friend of mine. Now I don't know where I fall for him, but it's true. I
No, I understand.
consider Mookie Chilson. Mookie and he's a very good friend of mine. I text him every single day, multiple times. And I'm at the National, and I want to see the cards. I want to go at my own pace. But I want to spend time with them because they live on the other side of the country. And so I fight this thing of where where does it go from I want to spend time with them to I'm not maybe having as much time at a particular case that I otherwise would have spent in order to stay together. So that's the kind of inner battle that I have with it. And to me, that's why Strongsville is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Strongsville is you can go at your own pace, and then I can say, "Hey, Darren, who's right there, come look at this card with me. Hey, Darren, hey, Mookie, hey, Theo, whoever, ready to go to lunch," and we're all right there. Like that's the beauty of Strongsville. People ask me all the time, Strongsville or the National, what would you pick? It's completely a different thing. It's like saying, I don't know what it's like saying, but it's just different. And if you're there for the friends, it's Strongsville. If you're there for the cards, it's the National. I guess
go
that
to the
wasn't a
National
question.
for the people. Yeah.
Yeah.
I go to the National for the people. The YouTube get together is really what gets me there. Being able to see and talk to all these people in person.
Yeah.
I feel where you guys are coming from, right? Like when I'm on the show floor looking at cards, I like to go at, I like to look at what I want to look at. And if even when I was there with my dad and my brother, I bailed on them lots of times those days because they were focusing too much time in my mind, too much time on something that I don't want to look at. So, I move on. Like, honestly, my when I'm on the floor looking at cards, the only time that when like a group of people come over and I'm not, like, I'm going to move on, is when it's like a viewer I've never met comes over and just introduces himself and we chat for a few minutes and then, we go back to what we're doing. I love that. But yeah, when I'm not looking to buy anything, I'm cool walking around with a group and let somebody else do it. But when I'm in shopping mode, same thing. I want to look at what I want to look at for as long as I want to look at it and then go. Like my dad I was probably driving him nuts on the last day of the show because I was like, I don't know if I want a Ty Cobb or a Honus Wagner. And we kept going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth between like 3 different tables. And he's like, he was acting like he was totally cool with it, but I know inside he's like, I was driving him nuts. And then I decided, you know what? Let's just go look at something else. I don't want a Cobb or Wagner. So I'm sure that pissed him off too. But yeah, I'm totally with you guys where it's like when you're in your zone, hanging out is great and spending time is great. But when you're in your zone, you want to be in your zone. And Mike, I'm with you. I don't share houses with people. I stay in hotel rooms.
Now, let me ask you something, Darren, and then I want to tie it into Mike. When you were at the National this year, was there anybody that you were a little starstruck to come in contact with or approach or introduce yourself to? Or is that just not a thing? Because I mean, Mike's got a really big channel. And when Mike's in a room like that, there aren't a lot of people with bigger channels than him. And there are a lot of people that are approaching him to say, hey, I like your channel. Hey, this is my name. Hey, whatever. I'm so-and-so who did this and this. Did you feel, because I had 2 people at the National that when I encountered them, I was like, hi, how's it going? I'm so-and-so. Did you experience that, Darren?
Well, I mean, when Mike and Mike walked past me in the lobby, I was like, wow, that's just powerful right there. But yeah, no, I think not completely. I think a couple times, like at the YouTube event, I wanted to when I was walking around just like checking out who was there. I went in that back area on the main floor that was like a garage or whatever, and I think it was a garage. I don't know. I feel like it was outside. And Joe Silverjackify and Vince, New York Yanks fan 7, they were chatting, and I wanted to introduce myself, but they were in the middle of a conversation. So I think I like awkwardly just stood there for a second until Vince was like, hey, Darren. I'm like, oh, hey, guys, how's it going? Let's start talking. But other than that, no, I don't think so.
Because, when somebody approaches you, Mike, that's, at least with my personality, that's kind of like difficult to do. Like to approach someone and go, hey, I'm so-and-so, I enjoy your stuff. Like that's out of my comfort zone. And I'm a teacher who gets up in front of 40 kids 40 kids per period, hundreds of kids every day, and has a channel, and I'm uncomfortable to say hello to somebody. Like how do you feel about that? Like when someone comes up to you at the show, what was that experience like when that started to happen for you, Mike? You go to the National, you go to your local show, and somebody comes up. Are you like, what was that like?
Well, I love it. The first person to ever recognize me from my channel was actually the new owner of Dawn Sports Card Center. He had just bought it, and he said, "Hey," and when I try to remember this, I feel like we were wearing masks because it was April of 2021. So it was still, the mask mandate was still happening here in Maine. And I don't know how he recognized me. I don't know. But he was like, hey, I watched your channel. You did a video on my store that I just bought, and I really appreciated that. And I was like, wow, somebody recognized me. This is amazing.
Yeah.
And I still get that feeling when somebody recognizes me. I'm grateful and thrilled that people are watching my channel and enjoying it, seeing me and wanting to say hi and tell me they enjoy my channel. It's a great feeling.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I was always a really big fan of Ryan Nolan at Breakout Cards. And I knew I was going to run into Ryan because he was rooming with Orlando and they're good friends. And Orlando and I are good friends. And I remember walking up to Orlando like 2 weeks ago. And I'm like, that's Ryan. Oh my gosh. Like it's just crazy to me. And I don't know why I feel that way. And then the other person, and then I ended up talking to Ryan the next day, a little bit longer, and we had a conversation, and we've texted some stuff. But the other person was Chris Sewell, and I'm like, Chris doesn't know who I am. That's ridiculous, you know. And he was carrying a bunch of boxes and over to his table, and Mookie stopped him. Mookie was teasing him, and Mookie's like, "Oh, here comes the tickle monster," because he was carrying all these boxes, you know. And so they were talking, and then I walked up, and I was just standing there, like looking down at my shoes,
like a 5-year-old.
And yeah, and Mookie goes, "Hey, Greg, have you met Chris? Chris, this is Greg." And then Chris, and he's like, you know, Greg has a channel, and whether he knows I have a channel or not, I don't know. But he's like, "Oh yeah, I really like your channel. You do a great job." And I was just like, I don't know if you meant it, but that was pretty cool. Like. But, you know, Chris is just like any of us. He's just, you know, he's just got 10 times more than that, 20 times the audience, you know. But it's interesting being on both sides of that. You know, I'll be at a show where somebody just came up to me and introduced themselves. And I try to be as kind as I can be. And then I'm still the same thing. I'm them. You know, 5 minutes later when I see this other guy, and I'm sure, you know, I'm not alone, but I just thought that was interesting to kind of see what your guys' take on that was. Yeah. Were you going to say something, Mike?
I was just going to say, I don't look at the big time influencers and get starstruck. I'm not going to name any names, but usually I just roll my eyes. I saw most of them at the show. We know who you're talking about. And I'll just look and I'll be like, I have no interest in talking to those guys or meeting them. Yeah. I was thrilled to meet you. I actually heard your voice and recognized it approaching me. You were talking in your entourage there as I was looking at some cards.
Me and one person, I think, wasn't it?
It was you and Mookie. Yeah. I felt like there was one other person with you, though.
I think there was. It was.
Dad.
It might have been
I met your dad. That's right.
Yeah, it was my dad.
And I get excited to meet the guys that I watch a lot. And I don't really watch anybody a lot except Mike Moynihan. I almost never miss one of his videos. Chris Sewell, I might watch half of his videos. But then there are a lot of other guys I watch fairly frequently, including you guys. And so I was thrilled to meet you. And there were a lot of people at the National, and I was like, a lot of people, I mean, at the YouTube get together that I'd never seen them before. Like 2 years ago when I went, I'd never heard of John Mangini before. And he was this rock star. Like he was the god of the YouTube get together. And I was like, I said to Sammy Thunder, "Who's that?" And he's like, "That's John Mangini."
You know, he just made a video about you yesterday.
I didn't. I posted a response to it tonight.
Oh, I look forward to that.
Yeah, Thursday. So if anybody's watching this on Saturday.
Gotcha.
And so I had to go start watching John Mangini, and I want to say Pino Man was there. So I'm trying to think of who else. Yeah. So the only one that I saw that I had to go up and introduce myself to, that he's not part of this group, and I feel like I'm part of the Vintage Collector Channel group. I'm like kind of on the outskirts of it. The only one was Trike 415, Trike 815, whatever his channel is called, Sports Cards.
Mm-hmm.
He's got like 37,000 subscribers. He's not a collector channel. He's definitely an investor channel, but he's just this normal, genuine, funny, humble guy. And I saw him 10 feet away from me, just standing there by himself, no entourage. And all these guys walk around with entourages. I joked about you, but they legitimately have entourages. And he was just there by himself. And I went up and introduced myself, and he's like, "I know you. You have a YouTube channel," which was like, wow, yeah, I do. And he
now
said, "You're Midlife Cards." No.
No, you just said something that I think is interesting. You said you hope that you're a part of the Vintage Card group. Why would you think that you weren't? Like,
my channel is different. I do more videos than most, although you are kind of normalizing it, so I appreciate that, Greg. I talk about more than just vintage. I talk about current trends, and I don't get the comments from a lot of the creators that you see on your channel, on Orlando's channel, and the other really popular collector channels. And I've just always felt like I'm kind of on the outskirts. I think I'm accepted. I'm embraced, maybe, but I think that people kind of hold me at arm's length. I have the occasional sponsorship too, which some people frown upon. By the way, I turned down. I was telling you, I was texting you about it. I turned down a pretty sizable sponsorship this week, which was, it's difficult to do because it's a lot of money. I'm not a wealthy man, and they were offering a lot of money, and I looked at the company and I was like, nope, can't do it.
Yeah, you have to believe in who you're putting your name behind, because that's really what you're doing. You know, that's interesting. At your reasoning for that. You know, I know for me, I know this sounds crazy, but I'm really shy. And so I don't approach people. Like I was talking to Mookie a couple of days ago, and he's like, you should approach Dr. Beckett and see if he'll come on your channel. And I was like, I'd love to have Dr. Beckett on my channel. I'd love to just talk to the guy. And Mookie goes, well, then just do it. I go, I can't do that. Like, I can't do that. I kind of wait until hopefully somebody cracks the door to me. Like, you had come and you had asked me to participate in your newsletter, which we'll talk about here in a second, and do a little Q&A on your newsletter. And I was like, oh, okay. Now, like, the door is open, and now I can feel more comfortable. You know, otherwise I just feel like nobody cares about me. You know, I'm nothing. You know, that's genuinely how I feel. And so I'm sure there are people that think, why hasn't Greg asked me to come on their channel, his channel? And it's like, well, because I'm not comfortable doing that. I'm not good at that. It's a weakness of mine. So I wonder if that might be part of it. I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you what worked for me. I did, I don't remember who was first, but I did. It might have been Pete Steinberg from
Mm.
SGC.
Hmm.
Had I think he commented on a Instagram post about how much he loves my channel, and I was like, "Why don't you come on sometime?" And I'd never done an interview before, and he said, "Yeah, I'd love to." And so I had him on my channel, and then I was like, "I got to get Chasing Cardboard on," and I went big. So I got Ty on by saying, here's what I did with Pete Steinberg, and I got him on, and then I just reached out to Chris Sewell. I had like 2,000 subscribers at this point, and Chris Sewell had probably never heard of me, and he came on and he stayed on after we finished, and he was like, "That was so much fun. I want to come on again." And I was like, "Do you think I'm somebody else? I have 2,000 subscribers." And then he emailed me later that night or the next day and reiterated, "I had a blast with that. Let's do it again." And that is what kind of built my confidence of being able to say to people, "Hey, I'd love to have you on. Here's an example of something that I've done." And that gives
Yeah.
them like, oh, a little legitimacy.
Yeah. No, that's good therapy for me. Thanks, Doc.
Yeah, it's always good. Yeah, references always help close.
Yeah.
I got one more thing, and then we'll talk about the newsletter that you've got going on, and kind of what that's all about. This is something I think about a lot for me. Out of everything, what is one thing that you want viewers to think about you and your channel? Like, what is a takeaway when they watch your channel? If they watch 3 or 4 your episodes, what do you hope they take away as, oh, that guy or that channel is really what?
That might be the best question I've ever received. That's a tough one. I would say genuine,
Hmm.
a regular guy, one of us.
Hmm.
That would be, yeah. I would say that. I would
And
hope.
why
What,
is that important to you?
because I don't want people to watch and think that they get a fake me, because this is me.
Yeah.
I sit in front of my computer all day and I talk to people just like I'm talking to you in the same exact way, because I work remotely, meeting with people all day long. And this is exactly who I am. And when I go upstairs and talk to my family, this is who I am. I'm an affable guy who likes to talk to people, who likes to talk to himself to a camera. Yeah, I love cards.
Hmm. What about you, Darren? I've
What
never
about?
asked you that.
Huh.
I mean, very similar, I think, right? Like I feel like I don't try to tweak my personality at all. And I think that what you see here is what you get if you meet me face to face, and we're not talking about baseball cards, right? Again,
Mhm.
I would prefer to talk about baseball cards, but if I bump into somebody and have a conversation, I think I am how I am, and um, I think it's funny because I've had a couple people have made videos and they refer to me as humble, and I actually played those videos for my mom when I was visiting in Maine earlier this summer, and my dad laughed. My mom, I thought she was going to throw up, but other than that, I think yeah, what you see is what you get, and like Mike said, I also love to talk about baseball cards, and I love to look at baseball cards. I think for me, I really enjoy when people want to share their collections with me, right? They send pictures or they show
Mhm.
me when they see me at a show. I just enjoy that. I enjoy seeing other people's enjoyment of the hobby.
I think one of the things that I like about YouTube is I actually get feedback on how I come, because I wonder how I come across. I'm sure there are people that just find me horribly annoying, you know. I'm sure that there are some people that think I'm a decent guy, But as a teacher, I've been a teacher for 22 years. And in 22 years, I've gotten 10 notes from students or emails like, thank you, your class did this. And I think that we just kind of assume that everyone else hated us. I have a very dry sense of humor, and there's always usually one kid in the room who just thinks I'm the funniest thing ever, and everybody else is confused by me all the time. I'm not as dry as John Keating, but I'm dry. And did I say John Keating? Mike Keating?
Yeah, John Keating. Yeah,
John Keating. And
that 70s show.
Yeah, right. And
Show.
I always, for some reason, him and Newman, I always get those two names swapped in my head. But and with this, it's like
Well, they're both Johns.
They are John Newman and John Keating. But for some reason, whenever I think about one of them, I have to focus on which is Newman and which is Keating, and that's what I did there. But this, I get feedback. Like, if people don't like me, they're not going to watch, and they're going to unsubscribe. Yep. And so I know what people think, and people will. I've had people send me notes in the mail and send me private emails, and it's really different. And I like that about it, is people will tell me if they don't like something that I did, but they'll tell me if there's something that they do like. And that's really cool. Now, your newsletter. So you started this newsletter not all that long ago, and you've been talking about it on your channel a fair amount, and you had a Q&A that I participated in on it. Why did you decide you needed to do a newsletter? Like, what does that provide that your channel couldn't provide?
Well, probably nobody's noticed. I've dialed back the videos a little bit. I used to do 5+ a week, and now I'm doing 4, maybe 5. And the newsletter allows me to put things in that I may want to get into a video. Let's go back a little bit. So my Sunday series, Clearing the Bases, is where I throw in 30 items that I found interesting this past week, but they didn't quite rise to the level of their own video. And then I still had things that I was like, I didn't get a chance to cover this, or this isn't really something I would cover on Clearing the Bases. I'm going to put this in my newsletter. And I've always loved to write, whether I'm a good writer or not, I don't care. I've always loved to write. And so I started writing little essays about things that I find important that are going on, like counterfeit PSA slabs might have been one, or I don't know. I've got an essay teed up on why more YouTube viewers should become YouTube stars, YouTubers. Mm-hmm. And I enjoy. Plus, I wanted to showcase. I would get emails, private messages all the time, like, "Hey, check out this card I got," and I want to showcase subscriber cards. Like this week, I have one where it's kind of like is it monthly series of the best cards of the midlife community?
It's just their pickups. Yeah. It's not the best pickups. It's every pickup that people submit. Yeah.
Way more ambitious than what I do, which is like Vintage Guy 71, who's a great guy. We've kind of gone back and forth. We've met in person at a show, and he sent me a trade that he completed. And so I was like, I got to put this in my newsletter. He gave me permission. So it's going to be my newsletter on Monday. If anybody's interested, go to junkwaxhero.com, free newsletter. Closing in on 1,000 subscribers. Well, closing in on 900, but I would probably say closing in on 1,000 at like 550. I think that seems pretty reasonable.
Hey, rounding up, you're good.
Yeah, that's right. And so it's fun. People I rarely get an unsubscribe, and I have 60+% who open it every week.
Nice.
So yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, I know that it's fun to have a variety of ways to express your thoughts and your interests in the hobby, and having another one just scratches a different itch. As a teacher, I try to present things in a variety of ways, and I think that definitely checks a box for some that a video may struggle to check. And so I don't think I was just curious what the reason was before it.
Yeah, and
Or for
sometimes
it.
sometimes I think I should do a TikTok or I don't know, one of these shorter video things or YouTube Shorts, and I have to stop myself because I'm a very ambitious person who can't cash in on all that ambition. It becomes overwhelming, and if I become overwhelmed with what I'm doing, I'll just stop doing it. And
Yeah.
so I have to keep it within check. My goal is to do my YouTube, which includes my newsletter, 5 hours a week or less. And so each video takes me under an hour. I'm doing 4 to 5 videos a week, and then my newsletter maybe an hour.
Darren, you got anything else while we have him up on the witness stand?
No, this has been a fun conversation for sure.
Yeah, I mean, for me, one of the best parts about this whole experience, it really hasn't been the cards. It's been like this. I don't know. It's this experiment of meeting different collectors with different perspectives from all over the country. Where I was talking to somebody today, maybe it's my mom. I went golfing today with my daughter Molly and my mom, and I was I think it was at lunch, and I was talking about my friend Brent who lives in Houston, and they're just like someone that lives in every state, and I'm like, it's wild to me. It's wild, but it really is. I'm genuinely curious, like all the things that I wrote out. I'm like, well, what do I want to ask this guy? And so I appreciate you being willing to come on and let us pick your brain and share your thoughts and insights, because
thanks.
I've had a lot of fun for the last 57 minutes, just getting to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, this has been great. And Darren, you should have a contest. Like, who can recognize the most cards behind you? And I've got a little screen here, and I'm seeing 84 Fleer Clemens, 86 Topps Bo Jackson, 86 Topps Barry Bonds.
It's pretty good.
I'm trying.
You're looking in the non-Nolan Ryan case. The other cases is Nolan Ryan.
I see his 80 Topps Nolan Ryan.
Yeah, so there's, what do we have in here? I got
72 Topps Nolan
football
Ryan
cards and some basketball cards, and then the top row is all Jeters.
I see your 84 Donruss Mattingly. I see the 92 Bowman Rivera, 89 Upper Deck Griffey. Next to the Bonds there on your second row, I want to say that's a Jeter, but I'm not confident in that. You've got a Jerry Rice rookie right above it.
The one next to Bonds is it's a Maddox Leaf rookie.
Maddox? Oh, I see that now, but I would never have gotten that. Yeah. You have a Jeter Topps rookie on the top row in the corner. Another Jeter rookie next to it, different rookie. And then you have the SP rookie next to it, right?
Yeah. That whole top row is all Jeter. It's
Okay.
all 9 of his rookie, like base rookie cards.
Is that a Donruss Diamond Kings card on the second row down, like a Yaz, maybe? Third one from the left. I don't know what.
Oh, that's got the yellow border?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a Jeter. That's his high school card.
My
high school, like, was that Sun Kings or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I went to when I was in the town that Darren lives, my daughter had a soccer tournament, and I got to go over to his house, and I looked through his cases, and then I looked through all of his autographed balls, which are just out of the screen. And then he took me down into the basement, and he got out his Zion case, and he laid out all of those slabs on a pool table. And I was just like, oh my gosh, dude, this is insane. This is insane.
Have you ever done a video where you showed all those? Have you done a room
no,
like a tabletop?
Not really a tabletop. The closest I've done is my countdown of my favorite cards in my collection every December.
Did I comment on that one?
I think so. It's I show one card at a time now, but
yeah,
I don't think I've done one where I show all of
He
that.
has them all in chronological order, and it was just like
I think I
I mean, I'm
watched
like,
it. I'm
at
gonna go
one
back
point,
though.
I go, you've got a Jordan rookie, and he's like, yeah. And I pull it up, and I'm like, you don't just have any, you have a massive Jordan rookie, dude. Like, you should do that. You should just get your whole thing and just go through chronologically all of those cards.
But see,
Okay.
that's the type of thing I like to do too, is in my newsletter, if I see an old video like that I like, I'll just share it and be like, here's a video I watched. You got to go watch this. And I'm going to go find that video.
Right on.
Cool.
One thing I want to add, I know we're at an hour and nobody's going to be watching at this point, right?
My
Mark
dad and
Duplex
his
here.
dad
God.
will be.
Yes.
My dad watches my channel too.
Oh,
And
good.
that's something.
Hi, Mr. Wax Hero.
You know, when we talked about what I want people to think about me, you notice I never talked about my knowledge of the hobby or expertise or anything like that. That's not important to me. I don't want anybody to be like, oh, he's an expert on vintage. I don't think that would ever happen because I'm just not. I'm not interested in becoming an expert. I want my passion for the cards to come through, and that I'm a good storyteller too. My friends, legitimate friends in real life who have zero interest in cards, discover my channel, however they do, and they watch it. And I'm like, why are you watching this channel? And they're like, oh, it's our dose of you. We don't get to see you a lot, and we watch it. And their kids watch it. I'm like, what? Why would your kids? They're not even into sports. They like you.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing I'm like, wow, that's so weird.
No, I
But I
think
love it.
that's a really interesting point, and it could take us down a whole rabbit hole. But you know, I do feel like there are other channels where the people are experts, like insane experts about the small variations. When I was in Strongsville with Darren. Darren bought a card, and the dealer was like, "Oh yeah, Tell him what's the story, Darren, about the card that had like the little mark on it." And then we went and hung out at the hotel, and they said, "Oh, this is the one. This is the one that has that mark."
Oh,
And it
yeah.
was like Dave Blue Jacket and somebody else, and they knew
Yeah, Mike Petty bought a card. I can't remember what card it was, but yeah, we were looking at it, and he was like, he was looking at it very closely at the YouTube event, and he's like, oh, there's this mark on it, and Dave Blue Jacket was like, yeah, there's two versions. One has the mark and one doesn't. And
Right.
Petty's like, how would you even know that? And then Petty's kind of like, yeah, I'm sure that's the case. And then like 10 minutes later, Andrew Nuffsaid looked at it also. He's like, oh, this is a version with the mark.
Yeah.
And Petty was just like, what? That's real? Like,
yeah.
the fact
Like
that
he
these guys
thought the
know that.
dealer. Well, the
Crazy.
dealer was telling him, "No, it's normal. That mark is normal. It's on a lot of them." And Petty was like, "Come on."
Yeah.
And then they like, and I mean, those guys are legitimate like experts. And I know some, but those guys have forgotten more than I've ever known. And I agree with you. Like, what I try to provide on my channel is a forum for us to share the enjoyment of the hobby, not to be up on a lectern preaching about the things that everybody needs to know and do. Like, that is far from my goal. My goal is just, collecting cards can be lonely. It can be very isolating if you don't know anyone, if you don't have anyone to share it with. You're just collecting it, and you're like, nobody knows I even have these cards. But once you have people to share it with and show off, hey, I got this card, check it out. Like, I bought a card last night. I haven't shown Darren or anybody. I haven't, and I've showed like two people the card I bought. It's a big card for me. I'll show it on an upcoming episode, but I wanted to share it with a bunch of people. And if you don't have a community to share it with and share the hobby with, you're missing out on so much enjoyment. And that's what I try to be, is a channel where it's just a gathering place. It's like the water cooler at the office where people just gather and talk about stuff. That's what my goal is for it, not to be the guy that you're sitting there taking notes on the intricacies of the Tharps ice cream carts. So I totally agree with you. And anyway,
I don't even know if Tharps ice cream cards is a real thing or if you just made that up.
It's a real thing. But
Dave Blue Jacket 66 is a legit expert.
Yeah.
Mangini. These guys are legit experts.
Yep. 100%.
And Dave will text me after a video and he'd be like, "You got that wrong." At 2 minutes and 18 seconds in.
But he's a great guy. When I've met him and talked to him, I got to meet his son at the National this year, and we got to talk a little bit. And I met him in Strongsville. Fantastic guy, but that's the guy. Rick's Vintage Oddball Cards. Those are the guys that you want to go learn from. But anyway,
yeah, I'm saying, Dave saved me at Strongsville because I couldn't find the card I wanted to buy, so I'm like, I'll just find something else. And I found this Cobb, and the people selling it had the back facing up, and there's just like a little like tag on it saying this is like basically this is a Ty Cobb, and it was the Halpersheimer clothing company Cobb. And I was like, oh, I'm like, wait, I go, that's super rare. That's a sweet card. And I was looking at it, and I was literally, I'm like, can I see the cards? They handed it to me. I looked at it. I'm like, oh, and I like asked them what they were asking. They told me. I was like, whew, okay. And then she put it back and went to help somebody else. And then Dave walked up and looked at it, and I'm like, what do you think of that card? And he goes, mm-mm. I was like, okay, sweet, done, moving on. Oh. And then at the YouTube thing, I was like, hey, I go, I didn't have a chance to follow up with you. You know why? And he was like, there's multiple different backs. That back is one of the more common ones. Now, and when Dave says more common, that can mean like there's
10.
It's like 3 of something else. But still, he's like, that's more common. He goes, and the price point they wanted is not. So I was like, if he wasn't there, I probably would have bought this card and been like, yeah, check this out, guys. Check out this card. And they would be like, you're dumb. So that was nice of them.
They wouldn't have said it.
They would just thought it.
They would have thought it.
Yeah.
So, all right, Mike, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Genuinely, I really enjoyed this, getting to know you better. I hope that we continue our dialogue off air too. And, we're always looking for interesting guests, and I think you definitely check that box. So
I appreciate you guys asking me on and not giving me a hard time about me accidentally naming my video off topic.
Dang it. We forgot to give him a hard time about that. It's all good. It's all good.
No,
it's cool.
I appreciate coming on. This was a lot of fun, guys.
Yeah,
for sure. Mike. Appreciate it. All right, guys. If you haven't seen Darren's most recent video for Off Topic that's posted this month on his channel, that was posted yesterday. Check that out over on Return to Collecting. If you haven't seen, sounds like Mike Junkwax Heroes response to Mangini, that posted apparently Thursday night. So check that out. I haven't seen that yet, but now I look forward to that. And go subscribe to his newsletter, subscribe to his channel. And thanks for watching.